Hey guys, I'm Julian. This is the first video I made for intermediate learners. And I'm making this video before any other videos because this is a very important topic in the Korean society. As an intermediate learner, you would probably know that Korean is an honorific language and you are supposed to talk formally in a variety of settings. And if you mistakenly talk informally to someone who you are supposed to talk formally, let's rephrase in Korean. If you use 반말 to someone who you are supposed to use 존댓말, you may encounter problems. And sometimes it may be very devastating. Maybe they can understand you if you look obviously like a foreigner. But that's not always the case for all the Korean learners, and that exception may not apply if you ask a direction informally to strangers on the street. Because the result of mistakenly talking informally is so disastrous, it's understandable why typical Korean courses want to teach you formal Korean only. It's also because it might add too much complexity to start off learning Korean if you learn both formal and informal ways. So those two will be the reasons why most typical Korean courses only teach you formal Korean. Having said that, what would be the best time to learn how to talk informally in Korean? I would argue that an intermediate learner's level, which means the level that a speaker can hold a conversation in Korean, is a good starting point to learn how to speak informally in Korean. As most Korean learners and teachers would have been concerned, if you learn how to talk informally as a beginner, you risk making mistakes that might make the other parties feeling bad. And because you have to make mistakes to improve, because making mistakes is so important for your foreign language learning, you shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes. You should be allowed to make mistakes as many as possible. And the problem of talking informally is that it's not only about grammatical problems, but it's about cultural context. It's about social adaptation. Most Koreans feel offended when they believe that they deserve to hear formal Korean, but they hear informal Korean. So this is the main reason why I would argue that an intermediate learner's level is a good starting point to learn how to speak informally in Korean. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, but talk formally. That's my advice. You might ask, isn't it weird if I keep talking formally in a situation that I'm supposed to talk informally? Maybe, but it's not very weird. And practically, the usability of talking formally is much greater than that of talking informally. We'll cover that a little bit later. In terms of the complexity of the learning process, I'll get you covered throughout my channel. I'll frequently come up with how to say this informally as well as formally, except videos for absolute beginners. Because I make videos for absolute beginners that will be suitable for formal situations or circumstances. In Korea, you don't informally talk to strangers nor introduce yourself. Before the other party figures out your age or your social status, they will keep talking to you formally. So it's very unlikely that you would have to tell your age in an informal way. Does that make sense? So if you learn how to talk informally, it would make sense to learn when you can talk informally in the Korean society. There are two factors most Koreans commonly use to determine when you should use formal language or informal language to the other party. And they are speakers' ages and social statuses. When you are older than the other party, it is widely accepted in the society that you are a superior and the other party is a junior. In the same manner, when you are younger than the other party, it is widely accepted that you are a junior and the other party is a superior. And the rule of thumb is that you can talk informally if you are a superior and the other party is a junior, or if you guys have the same age. But usually, social statuses apply first before the age factor. It's not about a broader social hierarchy. It usually only applies to those who are in the same organizations or groups. For example, a company, a club, or any kind of organizations or groups that hierarchies exist. But when two persons belong to each different organization or group, both of them talk formally because their group's hierarchy doesn't apply to the other party's group's hierarchy. Oh, please be mindful that a big family tree is also considered as a group. It's a complex topic and it's gonna be for another video. You probably won't even need to know it unless you plan to marry a Korean. But anyway, Koreans consider social statuses first before ages. Until college years, people are more obsessed with age differences because there's really no difference of social statuses. And their ages are the only factors to determine who's gonna talk formally and who's gonna talk informally. In some universities, senior students claim that junior students must talk formally because they are superiors based on the year they entered the university. And there's sometimes a controversy because there are some juniors who are the same age with seniors or even older. So stupid, right? In other organizations like companies, if one's rank is higher than the other parties, but the age is the opposite, both of them tend to talk formally. If one's rank is higher and they are also older than the other party, the superior tend to talk informally to the junior. In one of the most hierarchical organizations, like military, the age differences are usually ignored and they talk formally and informally depending on their rank differences. Between strangers, they use formal languages. If they don't belong to the same group and if they didn't meet for professional reasons, which means if their relationship is personal, they move on to the next factor, the age difference. And at what points do Koreans decide to speak informally? It depends. Some Koreans prefer to talk formally and informally as soon as they figure out their hierarchy. Some others prefer to keep talking formally until enough time passes. And later they move on to talk informally, depending on their statuses or ages. The thing is, superiors always have the right to decide when to talk informally to juniors. And the superiors always have the right to decide whether juniors can talk informally to superiors or not, while they can talk informally to juniors without juniors' permission. Let me give you one example. Let's say that you are 18 and the other party is 20. You guys met in university. Then you too will ask the other party's age. And once it is known to the other party, you two will decide what's gonna do next. As I just told you, the superior, in this case, the 20 years old, has the right to decide when to talk informally to juniors. They may continue to talk formally or not. They can just say, hey, I'm gonna talk to you informally. In Korean, it's 말 놓을게. 말 놓을게. Then you just have to accept it because you have no right to decide it. Then, or you can say, yeah, sure. In Korean, 네, 그러세요. Or 네, 말 놓으세요. This is a pretty common practice, and this practice is widely accepted in the Korean society. But there are other types of superiors. They may say, let's talk informally together. Or why don't we talk informally to each other? In Korean, it would be 같이 말 놓죠. 같이 말 놓죠. Or 서로 말 놓을까요? 서로 말 놓을까요? In this case, you can accept it or not. But you cannot suggest this from your side. Again, juniors don't have the right to decide whether juniors can talk informally to superiors or not. They have to wait for superior's decision. Once the superior gives such an awesome suggestion, you can say, yes, let's do it. But some juniors say no, because they religiously believe that juniors must always talk formally to superiors. So you can choose to keep talking formally if you want. There is no law or standard Korean rule to enforce this. This is just a custom, a social norm. And currently, this practice is widely accepted in the Korean society. But I don't perceive it as a fair rule. Personally, I am one of the latter types when I happen to be a superior. When I encounter juniors, I always suggest to talk informally together, no matter how many years of age difference they are, because I believe in the equality of human beings and I don't believe in hierarchies. When one of the two persons talks formally and the other person talks informally, an asymmetrical relationship is formed there. That's because the way of their communication is not symmetrical. There is a hierarchy. It's a hierarchical communication. And that may affect the entire direction of their relationship. It is a problem, and a lot of Koreans do acknowledge that. Some Korean companies started to use 님 at the end of their names without their titles. regardless of their ranks and their companies, to avoid hierarchical decision processes and hierarchical organization culture. Nim is an honorific suffix. You put the end of the other party's name. And when you call the other party like Julian Nim, you cannot talk informally. That doesn't work in the Korean language. So calling everyone with Nim forces everyone to talk formally to everyone, regardless of their ages or ranks. Some Korean tech companies even go further. They use Western nicknames so that they can equally respect the other party. But as of now, there are only a tiny bit of companies among countless Korean companies. And what would you do if you are in an organization that doesn't enforce such a revolutionary organization culture? And what would you do if you personally meet someone outside of an organization or a group? My advice is that you better always suggest to talk informally together to juniors. There's nothing you can do with superiors, but you have a free hand in suggesting and allowing juniors to talk informally to you, while you talk informally to them as well. There's nothing that hinders you from it. What if the junior insists to keep talking formally to you? You can keep talking formally to the junior until both of you agree to use informal languages at the same time. You can respect them in that way, as well as following your philosophy. That's what I do. That's what I have done. I know many of you were fascinated by the Korean culture and started to learn Korean from there. But like any other countries in the world, like any other cultures, it has its downside. It's not perfect. And I believe that this hierarchical culture is definitely one of the top 5 problems of the Korean culture. My hope is that more and more of you learn Korean and contribute to the change of this society. Do what you can in your own place. Allow your power to respect the other party who's not superior to you. You weren't born to be superior to the juniors. You are the same human being as juniors. You are created equal. If you do believe what I believe, please join me to make a better Korean culture. Once every one of you makes a change, it will never be the same again. If you like this video, please like this video. And if you want to learn more Korean from me, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification. In the comment section, leave your thoughts on talking formally and informally in Korean, and I'll check it out. Stay tuned.